He joins us every single Monday at 8:23. He is Dr. Nathaniel Cogley from Tarleton State University, and he's also going to be joining us tomorrow night for our primary election night coverage. So we are excited to have him as part of that for us. And Doc, good morning. Welcome into the program. And it looks like it's going to be a wild ride through the rest of this whole Super Tuesday thing.
Good morning, Mark. Pleasure to be with you here and be on your show. So Pete Buttigieg took away one of my big punchlines for this morning's segment. I mean, I was going to predict he was not going to have a good Super Tuesday. Right. And apparently he was able to figure that out as well. And him withdrawing is actually a very interesting dynamic. It's going to help a lot of people get above 15% in additional states.
So, and that's really kind of the big question, I think, here is when you start looking at the math and the mental gymnastics of that math that it takes to get there. Elizabeth Warren staying in, she really doesn't have a whole lot of a great potential in the Super Tuesday races if we were looking at the polling numbers. She's obviously got a shot at Massachusetts, though Bernie Sanders is still leading her in a couple of polls there. But she's really kind of banking more on Texas and California, right? Because there's no reason for her to stay in this race.
Well, exactly. The Democrats don't do winner take all. It's if you break 15% in any state, you're going to get delegates. And so the key here is that Elizabeth Warren is actually going to have a decent Super Tuesday. She's not going to win any state likely, but she's likely to break 15% in California. And, California is not only the most populated state, but they award delegates based on the percentage vote for the Democratic nominee last cycle. And so California is a very Democratic state. So at 415 delegates, it's huge. Breaking 15% there might yield her just 145 out of California. Right. So she's also close to 15% in Texas, the second largest state. So she's going to get some delegates out of Super Tuesday, even though you're right, she's not leading in the polls in any state. So as far as you seeing, as far as how you see the race right now, is this kind of a two-person deal with Sanders and Biden at this point? I mean, is that really where most of the focus and attention is probably going to turn from here on out? No, I see it as a five-way race, really. I mean, Biden's going to pick up a lot of delegates because he's got some momentum out of South Carolina that will play well in North Carolina, Tennessee, Alabama, Arkansas. But Michael Bloomberg, no one's spending like he's spending. He's running a 46-state campaign, and Buttigieg dropping out is going to help him break 15% in a number of states as well. He's going to come out with, maybe close to 200 delegates out of Super Tuesday. Warren might come out with 200 delegates out of Super Tuesday. Amy Klobuchar is going to win Minnesota on Super Tuesday, so she's going to have 42 coming out of there. So we're going to see the delegates go in five different directions. That means that no one's likely to get a majority of delegates, which means Biden's not a lock at that convention either. It has to be brokered. So
when it comes to Buttigieg, do you think he's positioning himself for a VP spot with somebody?
Well, I still think that resume is pretty thin to be the vice president of the United States. He may be positioning himself for a cabinet position. I don't know what he does. Indiana's a hard state to win statewide for a Democrat, so it's just not a great state for him to be in. But maybe there's a representative district in Indiana or a cabinet position. Yeah, I'm not sure what he would do.
Yeah, and now as far as Sanders goes, I mean, Sanders is kind of still leading this thing, and as far as does it look like to me, and when you hear the pundits talk, there is certainly a fear and a tremble in people's voices from the DNC when they talk about Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, sure. I mean, he's not even a Democrat. He's a socialist, and it's not. The party doesn't want to move that direction, at least the establishment of it. If Sanders was the nominee, not only does he represent ideological change, but he's a horrible matchup against President Trump. I mean, President Trump is going to win every swing state if Sanders is the nominee. And so, yeah, I think there's a lot of resistance. But how can you give the nomination to someone else and still keep those Sanders supporters on board? Right. That's the challenge that they face.
And that's exactly the same challenge that they were facing back in 2016, right? I mean, they're kind of in the same position that they're in. They've just got a few more candidates to choose from than Hillary Clinton.
Well, they succeeded last time because Bernie yielded. He went to the convention. He endorsed Hillary. But now he's set. I think he was planning to run again, right? And so he wanted to stay in good graces with the party. And now here he's 78. I can't see him running again in 4 years at 82. So this is kind of his last big stand. So it's interesting to see, what kind of decision he makes if he's thwarted at the convention.
Any thoughts on who Sanders might be picking for a VP?
Well, if he needs some delegates to put him over the top, it could be Elizabeth Warren if she's sitting there with 300 so delegates, 400 so delegates, and that's enough to put him over the top. She may be able to release them. You know, the delegates being bound is controlled by statewide rules, and so in some states a candidate can release them. So if there's some sort of deal before the convention, I'm sure the socialists would love a Sanders-Warren ticket.
Yeah, you know, you want to talk about a battle of power on the inside of that administration. Holy cow. Right? There'd be some push and pull there.
Yeah, that losing ticket. I mean, I don't think there'd be an administration. It'd be a losing ticket. But I could see both of them being excited and giving it their best shot. You
know, Sanders in the whole state of Pennsylvania, that certainly looks like it's going to be a big loss with him because of his stands on fracking and whatnot. But, Doc, we're running out of time. We are going to have a plenty amount of time tomorrow night. We're looking forward to having you as part of our Tuesday night primary coverage from 7 to 10, and we'll look forward to chatting with you tomorrow.
Thanks a lot, Mark. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Take care. 828, 43 degrees.